I love it. It's I'm hanging out with my boy, and so when Danny and I are on the mic, it's like I'm just picked up the phone to hang out. And our DJ producer Bobby, he's the creativity. He's the one who comes up with all that stuff you love, and so we got to throw him a shout out. And so that's Bobby Digital, and we just have a good time. And so for me, if anyone's listening, great. If no one's listening, I'm still having a good time.
Dr. Acevedo, Danny, the Cuff Daddy. Once again, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell me about the idea of this podcast and how this got started. Who was the creative genius, putting this together? Obviously, we got a shout out from Bobby, but as far as the concept of putting this show together, explain that a little to me.
Well, the name, I came up with the name.
By accident, it just fell out of your mouth, so don't.
It fell out of my mouth. No, so I met Sharif at the ASCS meetings, and I see him at meetings. We're both like lecturing and teaching, and we kind of clicked. We got a similar vibe, and I was trying to find somebody to have a podcast with, and I didn't really want to do I wanted to do a fun podcast. I mean, obviously, there's a place for every podcast. You guys have a place where you do sports. It's very cool. I don't want to copy anybody. I just wanted a place where I could showcase like my normal self and just how normal and cool like some of my doctor friends are and some of my other friends are. And then so Sharif hit me up and then he's like, hey, would you be interested in having a podcast? And I was like, oh yeah, I've actually been thinking about a podcast. I'm like, who could I do it with? And then he texted me back and he's like, me. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's kind of how it came up.
Yeah, and that's where it goes back even further. So a couple of years ago, Bobby reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, we have a great idea. Why don't we have you on and we'll make you the host and we'll interview all these other kinds of doctors?" And I'm like, "Orthopedist?" He's like, "No, like family practice and urology." I'm like, "That sounds terrible." And so it kind of died. And then when Danny and I started, getting to know each other, and I was thinking to Bobby, I was like, "You know what? I think I got a guy." So I called Danny, and then Danny's like, well, let's have a meeting, and we can figure out if this will work. And he's like, essentially going to interview us to see if we were cool enough to hang out with him. But then obviously we passed.
Gangster, dude. He's Cuff Daddy. It takes a lot.